just showing love to people. I feel like it's been what's the biggest, I guess, I wouldn't say been the biggest attractant for mentees to come to me and ask, hey, how do I do this? Hey, can you help me with this kind of situation?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk. So, this is our third and final episode of this series, and we might do a little bit of maybe a 30,000 foot view on this whole idea of multi-generational masculinity or the foundation of manhood. But this episode, we're going to be talking about mentees, and it's actually going to be way less about the mentees and a lot more about you and becoming the kind of man who somebody would want to be mentored by. So, buckle up. It's going to be a good episode. Might hurt a little bit. I know these ideas can sometimes hurt me and hurt my pride a little bit. So, on to the episode.
So, moving on to mentees. This, at least in my life, this has kind of been a bit of not a touchy subject, but it hasn't gone well for me because I was the guy who, wanted somebody to look up to. And I had some friends, I had some mentors that like it went well for a while, but then it eventually went badly. So in order to, I think, and this is an important thing. So now, you're at this level, you're in the middle of the road here. We're talking about people younger than you who you might actually be able to help. I think the most important thing, kind of like a guiding light for this idea, is that it's a quote: when the teacher is ready, the student appears. Meaning, you don't need to go out and look for mentees, young people to mentor. That's not your job. I know there's people out there who are professional mentors, and that's kind of one thing, especially if it's in an area of their expertise. There's that to think about. But what I'm really talking about is more like life situation. If you think you have it figured out and you're going out there kind of looking for people to mentor, it's probably best for you to just stop. Because what I've found is, in order to be a good mentor, you just start living a good life, living a growth-oriented life. People will see it and they will naturally come to you. That's what you want to have happen. And that kind of goes along with the parable of, I think it's some kind of feast that's happening in the Bible. And it's just a really short parable that basically Jesus says, don't try to put yourself at the head of the table, because then the master of the feast might come by and say, no, you don't go up this high. You need to go sit at the foot of the table. And that would be really embarrassing for you. What the parable says is, take the lowest seat at the table. You become the servant. You become the person who is stupid, who doesn't know what they're doing. Yes, if you have certain expertise, I'm not saying ignore that. What I'm saying is, don't try to make yourself seem like the smartest person in the room. Be humble, be teachable. And then what you'll find is, over time, you'll find that you're actually sitting in the middle of the table instead of at the foot. Or maybe you're sitting at the head of the table instead of the foot. And those people, those mentees, will just come and say, and you'll just start getting asked a lot of questions. I haven't experienced this a ton in my life, but I've gotten to see it happen with older men who have gotten their integrity back. And it's been amazing to watch these men who they used to think they were mentors, and then they stopped trying to be mentors. And then lo and behold, people started saying hey, wait, what did you say about that? I need to learn from you. And then it just happens. So that's kind of my little 2 cents on being a mentor for people younger than you. Don't look for it. If your life is a good life, the mentees will just happen. Those students will just appear. Mm-hmm. So, Tilghman, do you have any stories of menteeship?
Menteeship. Well, I've got some manteeship right here. So, menteeship.
Sorry, I had to throw that joke in there.
Yeah, I had to. So, they were right here. It was called. I guess those are the rhinos. So, link down below. No, but in regards to having mentees, or just I've never been an official mentor per se. I've been put into a position like as a youth leader, as like a scout leader before, through the church or through the Boy Scouts of America. And when I say scout leader, just like the den leader, just like somebody that was, of, I guess, of power, sitting at the head of the table, and everybody below me was like a couple years younger than myself. But one thing that I've found, Chris, is that in high school, a very like this story just came to my mind because I used to be that same guy. I used to be looking for people to teach. I used to be like, oh, kind of selfish in a way. If I have people that are going to look up to me, it's going to make me feel better about myself. And as I teach, I'll learn. Um, and then I stopped trying to find people and I started loving people. And that's something
Mm.
that really made people, like, I would say, be attracted to, being mentored by me. But I've noticed more people coming to me and just asking simple life questions, advice, like, hey, what do you have about this? What do you have about that? Especially younger guys that I know, they might struggle with explicit things on the internet. And as most guys might have
Mhm.
a struggle with that, which is like, it's a normal thing. We're human beings. But there comes a point where it's like, if you're questioning, like, hey, I want to be able to do this, and I think I might know someone that has gone through this, maybe is still going through it, that can help me out. It's nice to know, like, people can see that kind of light that you're carrying, and they
Mm.
come to you. And then one thing I found is, like, after you help someone or after you mentor someone, your love for people just grows. You just love
Mm.
so much more for everybody around you. Um, and one thing before we were talking about, the one thing before we started, Chris, like, nobody's perfect, and people think that you got it figured out, but nobody's got it figured out. We're figuring it out all together.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
true.
just being a just showing love to people. I feel like it's been what's the biggest, I guess, I wouldn't say finding been the biggest attractant for mentees to come to me and ask, hey, how do I do this? Hey, can you help me with this kind of situation?
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of the way it's been for me. Is like, for me, with explicit content on the internet, like that was a struggle for like most of my life. And
Hmm.
I'll be honest, like, I did not see any point where I could possibly be like truly free of all that.
Hmm.
Um, but it's, honestly, it was getting around a fire pit with older men and my peers that helped me get to the point where, like, for the most part, like, I don't deal with that now. And I don't say that as like something of pride, because like I didn't do that in my own strength. For me, I'm Christian, so that was help from the Lord, my obedience to Him, and then especially like after years of work, getting around older men who could speak life and speak candidly, lovingly, and be, be truthful and maybe a little bit hurtful when they kind of needed to be, just like, hey, you don't need to be doing this. Like, that has been the biggest help, is getting around a group of men.
So, guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Yeah, basically, we just need to learn to become the kind of men who people want advice from, because they'll see the light in you, they'll see the joy in you, and you'll find people asking you questions. And then as this progresses, like as you grow and change, you still need to take the lowest seat at the table. So maybe your call to action this week could be, where can you take a lower seat at the table? Where can you let go of some power or some prestige that you've been clinging to? It doesn't mean like quit your job. It doesn't mean, don't be a leader. It means begin to serve people instead of focusing on your own prestige and position. So I hope that helps. These are kind of fuzzy lines. These are a little bit of fuzzy concepts. There's no like hard and fast rules to this. So we look forward to hearing what you guys have. See you next time.